Neurodivergence in and of itself is not the thing that's causing the distress. It's the neurotypical system society has created under it. I feel like having a place where it's focused on neurodivergent minds and experiences is so lacking in our systems. It only becomes noticed or diagnosed or even looked into once somebody else is upset about it. I just want people to have better lives, that feel better, live in their noggin and their meat suit a little bit more comfortably.
Hi, I'm Lena. I'm the Executive Director at Mosaic Minds. Today we have with us Tabitha from Paper Flower Psychiatry. Hi, Tabitha.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I wanted to talk a little bit today about adolescent mental health. It's kind of our jam. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about was just brain development in general and really how therapy, psychiatry, and kind of what we do at Mosaic Minds with the group therapy and individual therapy, family support, kind of what you've seen in your professional experience, how that can help, what we can do to support families, support kids, specifically our neurodivergent kiddos that we are helping, but really any adolescents that are needing, kind of that primary mental health support. So what are you seeing in your practice with adolescents?
I mean, I pretty much only see neurodivergent folk, adults and kids, but a lot of adolescents, a lot of transition to adulthood age. And it's a struggle in the mental health. I feel like having a place where it's focused on neurodivergent minds and experiences is so lacking in our systems. It's something where I see a lot of times these kids, teens, even adults going either IOP, inpatient, all of that, and really struggling with the models that are used there and ending up on lots of medications in therapies that aren't necessarily teaching them about what's going on in their brains and aren't providing them the support that they need to thrive as they move through whatever challenge it is that brought them to the place of being there in the first place, Yeah. So what do they need? I mean, that's a very vast answer, but affirming care, really, like a comfortable couch, like a chair that you can crisscross in, somebody to actually listen to what's going on and help them understand what's going on. A big piece of this is the vast network of neural development, neurons in our brains, and the connections that neurodivergent folk make in their brains that may be different than what we would see in, neurotypical folk, which, again, I don't know that I'm fully sold that neurotypical people exist, but maybe.
I don't know many.
I don't know many.
But maybe that's just because I work in this field.
Same. Yeah, I think that a lot of what I see, mainly because of my patient population, is that I'm exposed to a lot of girls and women who have historically been either misdiagnosed, treated with medications that don't necessarily target what's going on, or just have been socialized to experience things in the way that they think they're supposed to experience it. And then that carries on through adulthood until it becomes unsustainable. And so that's when I'm seeing them when they're like, help. I'm in burnout,
Is there an age? I mean, I know from just kind of working in the field for a while, I think that a lot of the times we see with girls, I want to say like 9, 10, 11, where it becomes a big struggle, right? Yeah. Like we've been able to, these girls have been able to kind of just follow the crowd and okay, we like this color, we do this with our hair. So I see kind of melting down or not being able to, like around that like 9, 10-ish age. And then again, which might be a topic for another day, in perimenopause.
Yeah.
Right?
And pregnancy and childbirth too.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a huge reason for this, especially, when we're looking specifically at different diagnostic features of disorders, whatever, a lot of times the biggest reason that we see this shift is that this is when we're starting to cycle, right? Yeah. Not necessarily have periods yet, but even prepubescent girls are starting to have hormonal cycles. Their ovaries are saying, oops, we got to do some things. And they start trying to figure that out, but it's unpredictable and just kind of wonky. Again, this is where not necessarily, sometimes like 9, 10. But once we start getting closer to the onset of periods, this is when I start to see girls getting diagnosed with like bipolar, borderline personality disorder, just really severe depression, anxiety. And really, again, I think this has to do with the socialization of how we teach people to talk about what's going on, specifically girls and women, because I mean, I could talk about this all day long. This is what I do for a living, but like historically, right, when you think about like ADHD, for example, right, you've got little boys in class. It's not always a gender divide, but I use it this way just to kind of give the example. The little boys in class going blah, and the teacher's like, oh my God, medicate that child, right? Like, I am not going to be able to have 30 kids in the class with this kid.
Right.
The little girls are sitting there going, well, I'm supposed to be like dainty and sweet and nice. So I'm just going to like do the same thing, but like by moving my toes inside my shoes and like twirling my hair and like biting my nails and making it real cute. And so it doesn't get noticed and they're getting good grades because it's not, ADHD has never been about like, there's no part of the diagnostic criteria that says you must struggle in school. Like you must get bad grades.
Right.
This is not part of the but we like somehow have over time used language to develop that. And so they're getting good grades and they go to a doctor and the parents are like, you know, this is so problematic because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, our perfect angel baby is having meltdowns, little mentee bees, right?
Yeah.
And so when we talk about it, it becomes very much like, oh, this is very cyclical. It's reactive. It's aggressive, right? And we start using the words like this. And when you ask them what's going on, a lot of times they don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I just always felt this way. And I guess now it's coming out. But anyways, so those girls get unnoticed, I guess, as they go through. They don't have the same process in school where they get in IEPs or 504 plans. Yeah. They're sliding under the radar. And then all of a sudden, your body is like, oh, hey, we're going to like throw a wrench in this for you. And they may not have huge obvious struggles, but internally I find that most people have quite the battle at that point and may not notice that it was a battle until they're adults. But when it does either come outward or start to look like something else, this is when we see like substance use, promiscuity, right? But there's like a neurobiological reason for that. Like if your frontal lobe has a deficiency of dopamine and norepinephrine, you're going to seek that out. And now if your ovaries are cycling and your estrogen is going up and down every month in the luteal phase of your cycle, when your estrogen is gone, your body's going to be like, hey, this dopamine, it's not feeling as good right now. We should go get more. And then we're doing all kinds of risky behaviors that are cyclical. And that looks a lot like the DSM criteria for bipolar. Right. So you've got all these girls that are now put on antipsychotics, mood stabilizers, which isn't, again, this isn't like medical advice. And maybe that is helpful for that person because you can have all kinds of co-occurring things and meds in and of themselves. I hate how we name them because like antidepressants that everyone calls, right? These are also our first line anxiety medications. We don't call those anti-anxieties or anxiolytics, right?
Psychotics.
Antipsychotics. It's, if I say that to like a parent of a child, they're like, like, I don't want to put my kid on that.
Right.
They're also FDA approved for major depressive disorder. They're used in augmentation and OCD all the time, irritability and autism. So we have tons of reasons why we use all of these. But anyways, these are heavier meds that can have more side effects, right? And so you've got these girls who have no language except risky behaviors, cyclical mood swings, all of these things about themselves that are problematic to everyone else in their life. Right. And now they're on meds that are making their bodies look bigger, fit in less, and feel worse, right? So this is not really a recipe for success for most of them. And then it's like, surprise, transition to adulthood, you've been getting good grades, go off to college. And now they're like, I'm supposed to figure out how to do my laundry in the midst of all of this? Right. How does that, So again, it's not always a gender divide. And there is a hormonal piece with boys too as well. But this is where I see things diverging from like the research the most, because historically we've done all of our research on like cishet white men, which is just how the medical field has been up until this point. So while that research is emerging and it's there, it's not well known or well put into practice by a lot of practitioners, especially people who went through schooling long ago that don't necessarily fully have the updated information yet, I
hear a lot when I talk to families that are seeking, whether it's IOP or PHP or even, them asking for help finding the right residential program, that the girls have been misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all.
They're just gifted.
Right, right.
All the time.
So what is that? So is it just that females in general are, it's just easier for them to what? Pretend?
We're
Just,
socialized.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, boys will be boys, right?
Right.
I mean, as much as we have made progress in that regard, it's not something that is deeply ingrained in our society, right? So you may have a really accepting family who doesn't carry those things, but then when you go to school, you're still getting that same messaging. I saw an ad. I was telling somebody about this the other day. I saw an ad, I think it was after the last election, and it was a silent video with all women, and they were counting ballots. And it was a man's voice, or might have been, I think it was a man's voice, and it just said, "We salute these women for counting our ballots." And it was like, good for them being quiet and doing what they're told.
Mhm.
That's like the message
Right.
that I took. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that
Yeah.
feels icky,
Yeah.
right? That like there's this, the answer to your question, and like the stuff you were just saying,
Yeah.
out of all of that, my answer to that is that we get to this place where our internal experience isn't really something that we ever communicate externally unless it's like dug into, right? And it only becomes noticed or diagnosed or even looked into once somebody else is upset about it.
Right.
Not when we're upset about it. And so with boys being like, blah, right?
Yeah.
Somebody else is upset very early
Right.
on, the teacher.
Yeah.
And she's like, I hate my job.
Yeah.
Or he. There's a lot that is kept internal that doesn't surface for a multitude of I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many reasons
Right.
why. It's not like this is why.
Yeah.
But the times where it's harder to keep internal, anytime that estrogen is
Mhm.
in a big flux. So puberty, pregnancy and childbirth, perimenopause and menopause.
Yay.
Yeah, so great.
Fun.
So lovely. And if you just try to like, slurp those organs out of your body, still screwed.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that we do at Mosaic Minds is it's a little out of the norm, although I can't believe
All about
that
out
it
of the norm.
is, because we have in our curriculum talking about cycles.
Yeah. I will sit on the couch in my office and be like, pull up your app.
Yeah.
And we will sit down and I'll say, what day was this that you were freaking out about the thing at home?
Right.
And if they don't know, I'm like, Mom, get in here. What
Right.
day were we fighting?
Yeah.
And I will say, look, the evidence is right there. And what this does is it allows us to like normalize that. And because I don't know about you, but like prior to learning any of this, I think my only experience of hearing about other people's periods was like, oh, she must be on her period.
Right.
But now it's like, actually, no, she's in her luteal phase.
Yeah.
And it blows for her right now.
Yeah.
So be nice,
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and part of it too is the curriculum. We will separate kiddos and talk about specific things, and we'll have, different groups for different things. But it's really important for everyone to know.
Yeah.
Like,
I can't tell you the biggest moment in a neurodivergent house that has any type of adolescent person with ovaries is the father figure in the home and that person during the luteal phase.
Yeah.
Guarantee it.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if we don't know that's what it is,
right.
it's just, this is insane. It's
Yeah.
like this every time.
Mm-hmm.
For everybody. Everybody's in like meltdown mode. And of course, right? Because we don't have the language.
Yeah.
And again, when I say like we're socialized to describe things a certain way, just like that, it's like your behaviors are aggressive. You're being rude. I'm trying to think of other examples. But like when we really look, if we're able to take a step back and say, I am being a little irritable. I'm in the luteal phase of my cycle though, so it checks out.
Yeah.
That would change that argument immediately.
And just communicating that, even if it's just a little bit, which is awkward. Yeah. It's awkward.
We've only made it awkward because of the way, if she's on her period.
Right.
It's like, yeah, dude,
we
we
don't
all
talk
do
about
that.
Like,
We all do that. Like, well, not all of us, but
Yeah.
at some point,
Right.
we experience this in our lives, or somebody that we love experiences it in their life, you know?
What does that look like? What have you seen just in your, in your work, right? A parent or a family that talks about, I mean, bare minimum feelings, but then also like brain development, and this is happening at this time, whether it's, cycle related or really just mental health as a whole. Like, how can that, I'm going to be dramatic, but how can that literally save lives?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Because, and most of the time, this is quite the process, right? It takes a while for me to get up to witness,
Right.
like, hey, this is a healthy family unit, you
Right.
know? Not in that anybody's doing anything wrong, but I think unlearning these deeply held beliefs that are not just within our families, but within our ancestral lines, our society, all of it, right? Unlearning that and changing that is really, really difficult. But what it looks like is more peaceful communication, less why does it always end up like this? Because that's the frustrating spot for everybody is nobody really gets to be pleasant and happy in their space if we're all just constantly like on edge, you know, like when's the shoe gonna drop? Like it's gonna drop every 21 to 28-ish days. And like we know that, and it's not a shoe that's dropping, it's just my body being a body. And we're just gonna we're going to do the necessary things to support that.
Yeah, we're going to figure it out together.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and especially with dads. I mean, I think this is, I could do a whole thing like with dads.
We'll have you back for more, by the way.
But with dads, it's really hard because, again, you don't have that experience per se, right? If you're a cis male, you don't have that experience. And so it is really hard to like disconnect from the ideas that you're taught because they're typically so basic. And also take the personal nature of the arguments out of it and see it as something that is purely a chemical response, right? It's hard to get to a place where that understanding goes both ways, you know?
That kind of brings up another part of what I wanted to talk about is meltdowns, right? And I know that's kind of just like a general term, right? But that can very much look like disrespect, shutting down, maybe slamming a door, you know, and a lot of the times it's just like these kids, boys, girls, everyone in between, you know, like what would you say to a parent that doesn't know, right? Like that doesn't know that this is literally just a response to like an explosion that's happening in the brain rather than like, you know what, I'm gonna almost, if you could like describe what happens in here during that. I've seen it, right? Like after school, right? Getting in the car and it's just like, you know, these kids have tried so hard all day. Just keep it together. Don't say it. Don't move too much. Don't cry. Don't, right? So I guess, and I know there's a lot of different meltdowns, right? But like what is happening? What's happening in the brain when this is going on?
I mean, so much like just flooding and a lot of different experiences too. Like this can be, I got in the car and my ADHD meds are wearing off. So I just don't have the ability to regulate at this point, right? And that can look like either, hey, we figure out how to just really name this and have like a thing that we do to help bring it together at the end of the day. We let it happen. We have a little mentee be in the car. We throw things, we scream, we put in the loop earbuds so we can't hear them yelling, right? Like whatever you got to do. Or, you know, we talk to whoever is prescribing the meds and, you know, get that all ironed out in the wash. But there's also like, hey, things didn't go the way that I thought they were going to go. And you might not know that that's going on because we may not be able to, you know, you might not have them explaining that to you, but rejection-sensitive dysphoria, right? Somebody rejected them at school. They made a bid for connection with a friend and they didn't get that back. And they were taught if somebody says hello, you say hello back. That's the rules. That's the social rules. And they didn't follow it, right? And that can be really upsetting. Like, no, but this is the rule. And the justice, the social justice is we're really supposed to follow the rules. You know, and you may not know. It might just be like, hey, how was your day? And they say, it was terrible. I hate you. Right? And it's hard as a parent to not be like, well, insert expletives here because you see a lot of children. I'm not going to say the words I wish, but like, you know.
I have to stop myself often as well.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. You may not be able to look at that and say, okay, here's what's going on because your system is activated now, right? There is inherently, as humans, we're supposed to have this fight or flight, right? So if someone is screaming at the top of their lungs or says something offensive to us, our brain goes, oh, I know what this is. This is disrespect. And I'm going to release these chemicals so that I can respond appropriately. And that is fully dependent on your experiences in life. So if you grew up in a home where fight or flight meant I'm in a fist fight with my dad, right? Or like I'm silent scorning my mom and siblings for the rest of my life, right? Your brain will respond in that way unless you've changed that process, right? And so that's when I say there's so many variables, because it's not just the meltdown, but it's the response to the meltdown. Because now if we're silent scorning the kid, the rejection sensitive dysphoria is getting even higher.
Yeah.
And then we say, you need to get your homework done. And then we've got demand avoidance. It's like, well, I'm not gonna. Yeah. And that cycle just round and round and round we go, right? So being able to like zoom out and say, what is it that is actually needed here? Like, I'm allowed to feel the way that I'm feeling because it feels very disrespectful to be told, I hate you, and I have kept you alive your entire life. So no, you don't get to hate me.
Yeah.
But what's needed in these moments, right? Is this like every single time we can just say, wow, it sounds like it was a really hard day.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about that later. Yeah. And then just driving home.
Yeah.
In complete rage within,
right.
but externally chilling, you know? I always, as you first started asking this question, I was like, the one thing I always say to everybody is, if you pick up a parenting book and it was not written within the last 5 years and says, for parents of neurodivergent kids or neurodivergent parents of neurodivergent kids, everything in that book, do the opposite. Do the exact opposite.
Oh, fascinating.
And again, that's not 100% advice, but it's kind of my joke, right?
Yeah.
Because it's going to tell you, like, double down. You got to show them who's boss. Lay down the rules. Yeah. Don't let them walk all over you. Like, if you try to not let your neurofestive little kid walk all over you, they're going to walk so much harder.
They're going to stomp.
They're going to take that opportunity to really show you how it's done, you know?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The rejection sensitivity and then the demand avoidance, right? Is that why a lot of people are being diagnosed with oppositional defiance disorder?
Yes.
So could that be interchangeable? Like, is that?
I have qualms with ODD.
Yeah.
It's really gross. The reason why it was created, and if you look at just demographics of the kids who get diagnosed with it, a lot of times it's minorities in foster and adoptive placements because they're not behaving. Yeah. And it's a name for something that doesn't give us any solution or answer. Yeah. It doesn't allow us to make any changes. There's no, like, I guess if you want to call it a treatment, like you could give antipsychotics or mood stabilizers, again, which is to make other people comfortable. Yeah. If the kid's oppositional to everything, let's talk about that. Let's figure out why. Let's understand we might be oppositional because the shirts you're buying are too tight. Right. So if we don't ask those questions, how do we figure out how to better support this? Let's just chemical ABA them with some meds. Yeah. That seems a little...
Right. Is ODD even, is that in the DSM?
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know that. They are working on a DSM-6, though. I have high hopes that some things will be different. But, I mean, when I say high hopes, I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah.
But
what would be, if you could give a parent, like, let's say 2 pieces of advice.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, just 2 pieces of advice. You're walking into maybe therapy for the first time, whether it's group therapy, individual therapy, or into a psych provider, or like this is brand new, right? Kiddo is struggling, and the parents obviously, they love their kid, right? And they're taking all their years of their own stuff, how they were raised, sprinkle in trauma, sprinkle in, archaic books that they maybe read, like all this stuff. Like, what would you tell them? And this is for really, obviously, any teen, but, the neurodivergent population, right? Like, what would you tell them? What would be like the first couple things that you would say to them? Like, I don't know what to do. I'm at a loss. Like, please help.
Yeah. Like, being curious is probably the best way to approach something, especially if we're in the midst of heightened emotions. Like I said, in the car, there's a whole process going down, and it goes the same every day. Yeah. To turn around and, like, just do this in a different way and say, hey, I really want to understand, like, what's going on for you right now. Yeah. And if you don't know, that's okay. But maybe later we can talk about it, like, just really wanting to understand. Yeah. And you may not get a clear understanding, but, like, even with a provider or in a therapy setting, communicating that your intention is to understand so that you can help, right? Not this is the behavior that's problematic to me. This is why. These are all the bad things they've ever done, and it needs to stop, right? Like the demands of like what it must look like in order for things to be okay often make those things worse. Another thing would be like really identifying what in me is the response, and not necessarily that like, hey, everybody's like needs to go get on meds or
Sure.
whatever. But I think knowing, hey, in my body, like when this happens, what happens for me? Because if we're not aware of ourselves, we can't ask our kids to be aware of what's going on, right? If we don't, again, I mean, oh man, I could talk about this all day long, but if we don't go through the process of changing those innate stories that our brain has made up to protect us, but are no longer working, they're maladaptive, right? They're keeping us away from connection with our kids and with others, maybe, probably, then we can't expect a kid without a fully formed frontal lobe to do the same, right? So in those, I commonly will joke when I'm struggling in a parenting moment, like, I'm the adult. Like, I have to self-regulate. It's me. It's on me. I'm allowed to do, I have to. I'm the only one that has the actual full frontal lobe to do that, you know?
I remember it like it literally happened 5 minutes ago. I was talking to my daughter and I snapped, right? I snapped and I was like, you need to calm down. And her eyes got wide and she looked right at me and she says, I don't know how. And I was just like, oh my God.
Well, and these are the things that we were told. Stop crying.
Right.
You can't do that in public, not here at the store, right? It's like you can lay down on the floor with them, throw a tantrum, you know?
And it was a pivotal moment because it snapped me into reality, you know?
Yeah. She just can't.
Right. Like, I don't know how. And obviously just like why, you know, wise beyond her years, or just, I've always been, I mean, she's just my greatest teacher, right? Where it's just like, I've never verbalized that, right? And since that day, I have, right? I've allowed her, and then I've allowed myself to be like, I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. I am struggling right now, and I will get back to you, right?
This is something that I talk parents through all the time, like multiple times this week. I've already talked a bunch of parents through this of like, in those moments, you're allowed to say, I'm really frustrated, and I'm going to go sit in my closet for 5 minutes because I think I need to be in dark spaces. Or just, I'm going to excuse myself because I don't know how I'm showing up right now and I don't like that. And I don't want to say something mean when I don't actually mean it because I love you so much.
Right.
Bye. You know?
We have a sensory room at Mosaic Minds.
That's so cool.
And I use it. Like I'll be, get off a call or something, and something will be happening inside of me, right? And I'm like, I'm angry, right? Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get out of these fluorescent lights, and I am going to turn off my computer for a few minutes, and I'm going into the dark room that has the fidgets and the glowy lights, and sometimes it's only 5 minutes, maybe even 2, right? Where it's just like, okay.
I think something worth mentioning, because you're working with neurodivergent adolescents, is that neurodivergence is highly genetic.
Oh, yes.
So when we're examining ourselves as parents, right, and if I was talking to somebody, giving them the advice you were asking about, I would ask them, like, hey, have you ever wondered about these things for yourself? Or if they're like, absolutely not, right? Because some people are like, there's nothing wrong with me, you know?
Well, yeah, because if they were raised in, the 80s, then we don't talk about.
And you'd be surprised how many times these are the dads that are like, well, somebody told me I had Asperger's once, right? We don't use that term anymore because it's like not great, but that's what they were. And their parents said, no, that's not true. Yeah. And now it's like I'm sitting there as a clinician going, oh, okay, this checks out, but asking them like, do you have sensory stuff that really bothers you, right? Is there things that you need when you're super angry? What do you do? How do you let that out, And finding, hey, is there like ways that as a family we can meet these needs and have a sensory room in the home? Or I commonly tell people the closet just because it's like such, even if you don't
a sensory room,
even if you don't have a walk-in closet, like under the shirts is like such a solid spot to go.
Like, Mom, what are you doing underneath the bed? Like, what are you?
It doesn't matter what I'm doing.
It's nice and just quiet and dark and
well, and when
small.
we normalize this stuff, we not only like come home to ourselves and the authenticity of what we need, but we also show our kids it's okay to not know, and it's okay to meet those needs in a way that isn't conventional. It's not get yourself together, pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Yeah.
Don't have a feeling. You can
Yeah.
do that later,
Yeah.
right? It's hey, in this moment, I don't got it in me. I'm just gonna do whatever I need to do to feel okay inside my body and my brain. Because like at the end of the day, we're floating on a rock in space,
Right.
and like I don't really care what somebody at the store thinks of me if I'm sitting on the floor with my kid while they scream.
I think that the one thing, because I talk to people so much, right? Maybe their kid has been newly diagnosed with something, or and I share, almost like what I wish I would have done, or what I'm still learning as a parent, working in this field. All of that is the one thing that I tell them is let go of that need for other people to see you being a good parent, or being or like you said, grocery store, on the floor. It's just like, who cares?
Yeah.
I think we want to prepare them for this real world, which a lot of times kind of sucks, right? Like
Yeah.
it's still a world where, we're all supposed to kind of fit in this box.
Yeah.
But it's just like, who cares?
Well, that's the thing is neurodivergence in and of itself is not the thing that's causing the distress. It's the neurotypical systems that our society is created under.
Right.
And this ties back into what we were saying at the beginning when we were talking about the difference in how we're socialized.
Yeah.
That belief that other people are going to think you're a bad parent if your kid is losing it.
Right.
This is about us being super hyper vigilant to the needs of others, and only caring about something if somebody else thinks it's upsetting. Right? It's okay.
Yeah.
You're allowed to just be and not worry if somebody else thinks that the behavior is upset. Obviously, right? I don't mean in the context of like go do crime and
Okay, so here's my next question. What do we do? Right?
Yeah.
So the world we live in, right, is still very much a neurotypical world, right? We have to act a certain way, be a certain way. We are, programmed to like, work and not be rude.
Capitalism.
Don't don't say what's actually on your mind. Just, smile and nod, or, So what, of course I want to like fight the system, right? As a parent, as a, as someone that works in this field, and also this is the world we live in. So is there a balance? Like, what do we do? Like what? I mean, I know, in our program, we explore different types of careers. Like part of, towards the end of our PHP, the end of our IOP, we talk about, careers, even if they're 11, 12, but some of them are, closer to 18. They're, 11 to 17 is our age range. So maybe we'll talk a little bit more with the 17-year-old, but it's like, okay, so here are some of the really cool professions that, someone with ADHD may thrive in, or someone on the spectrum may thrive in, or whatever else, or just exploring that in general.
Yeah.
But what do we do, right, to prepare them for this world while also celebrating who they are and encouraging them to be their authentic selves?
Yeah.
I mean, is there even an answer for that?
There's so many answers. Neuroaffirming providers, so ending up at programs such as yours, finding therapists who specialize in neurodivergence, occupational therapists, all of these things, med providers who are willing to listen and talk about these things. Yeah. And then getting to a place where, because down the road, right, if we don't prepare them, what I see a lot in adults is neurodivergent adults will show up and say, I'm just feeling really depressed. I'm hopeless, right? Yeah. And when we really get down to it, it really is this vast network of like possibility and talent and extreme intelligence, spending most of its time thinking about how the problem is the systems, right? And knowing no one single human can change the way that our world is structured all at one moment. I mean, again, there may be some caveats to that, but being able to create something or contribute to creating something that is built by and for neurodivergent folk, right? Whatever that is, there's all kinds of really cool stuff. I mean, there's art collectives, there's programs, right? There's self-led support groups. There's like actual structured support groups.
Yeah.
But a lot of times what I end up doing with these, especially when they enter the workforce and they're really struggle bussing and like, hey, my boss is like demanding things of me, but they're not doing it right. And the system could be better, but they
Right.
won't let me make it better.
Yeah.
And they're mad that I want to make it better
Yeah.
and that I'm criticizing their, right. Or I don't understand why they need me to work this specific day because I already told them this is why, you know, there's a lot of like just little nuanced stuff, right? These are the humans that I'm saying, hey, dude, but like your niche is like really cool. How about we stay in this type of setting long enough to start creating something that's your own, right? Be your own boss, essentially, which again is like, that's a long-term process, but get to a place where you do get to create something where there's a sensory room where all you do is neurodivergent, helping humans understand all of this stuff, right? Because truly, when I got into where I'm at and kind of the niche and specializing in treating neurodivergent folk, I mean, not a day goes by where like I'm uncomfy about like what I'm doing for work or like I get to make my own schedule. Do I overdo that and land in burnout sometimes? Yes. Yeah. But, you know, I'm still just having a lifey life experience in neurotypical capitalism land. But I'm also thriving and I'm doing what I love and I get to utilize my special interests to contribute to the world in a way that I'm not in that space that feels like there's all these systemic problems and there's nothing I can do about it. It's here's what I did today to be a small part of that solution, right? And so I think with these kids, really taking it from a place of like the short-term right now possibilities, but also giving them insight into what that can look like down the road, whether that's introducing them to humans who have walked the same path or, you know, just setting them up with ideas so their brain can start to take off with that because it will, you know, even the little ones, when you're talking to them about careers, they're on it. Yeah. They are deeply aware of those things and they will go home and learn everything about it. So
what is, and we touched on this a little bit, but as you were talking, you know, this is why this program was created, right? I guess, you know, we can kind of just wrap up with, you know, a neurotypical type program and, you know, neurodivergent affirming program that also is staffed and created by, staffed by neurodivergent people, right? You know, what's the difference there, say, for a 13-year-old walking into a program where there's, you know, kids that are, you know, similar or maybe completely different, but at least like loving and accepting and staff, you know, and I know you work at a place that is very, very much like that too. Yeah. What does that do for that kid?
I mean, it's huge. So like, this is why it's so exciting and why I hope that the mental health community continues to grow in this space. The first example I thought of when you started saying that was a lot of times, like you said, 13-year-old, I'm like, a lot of times these kiddos are going inpatient or IOP, PHP for self-harm. Okay. So a lot of what we get is like, oh, this person is suicidal. They are self-harming and this is bad. We must stop it. We need to make sure that they are no longer suicidal. Right. Like, and again, yes, this is very important to do risk assessments. It's very important to make sure we're keeping people safe. Right. But when we throw a bunch of meds at that, we don't necessarily, and then we like take all the sharps out of their house, right? Which again, I get it, right? There's truly reasons to do that. Yeah. And if we don't investigate further, if we don't have neuroaffirming staff and a neuroaffirming program, we may not recognize like, hey, I got to the place of self-harming because everything was so loud in that moment and I could not, my brain was exploding and I needed to remember that my body is real and that's the only way I know how. Yeah. And then what we do is we sit down and we talk about what are some other ways that we can know our body is real without it causing harm in a permanent way. I mean, I don't know if you've ever held a little ouchie before. Have you?
The little spiky.
The little spiky.
Yes.
Oh, my neurodivergent teenagers love those things. I'm always like, hey, dude. And I'll like slide one across the table, get a load of this guy. Yeah. And they'll be like, oh, that looks gross. And then they pick it up and they're like rub it on their face, right? Like, oh, that's that input that I'm looking for, right? So when we do a sensory profile, for example, with like an occupational therapist or just kind of on the fly, if we're seeking sensory input, when the noise, the auditory input is too overwhelming, we're seeking tactile touch. If we know that and we have that information via a neuroaffirming program, this solution is no longer meds. It's go buy like 20 little ouchies and ice thing so you can make some ice and put that on the back of your neck while you grind the little ouchie for a minute instead of self-harming, right? And so like the language, again, is so important to really understand what's going on. It's not, hey, I'm self-harming or either non-suicidal self-injury or suicidal self-injury, right? It's like very clinical terms of like, check, 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 you meet the criteria, you get this med because that's the first line treatment. Instead of, hey, dude, what ended up happening? How did we get there? Can you walk me through that day? Was there anything that you remember that brought you to a place that felt that way? And really having a conversation with these kiddos in a way that highlights the actual lived experience that they're having, not the words that clinically fit because of the checkbox, you know?
Okay, I know we have to wrap up. I literally could talk, and I think you could too. We could
this
do
is
this
all
for
I do all day.
literally 3 hours more, and would love every minute because we share our special interests. I think.
It's really hard to have this as your special interest.
So speaking of super random fun fact that you would like to share with everyone about the brain.
Super random fun fact about the brain. There's so many. Oh my God. I
know.
I'm freaking out. Yeah. Hang on. Because now I'm going to think of one and then I'm going to be like, I should have thought of that one. It's okay. Like in regards to what? Do you have like a topic?
Yes. The span of, let's say 11 to 17. Like what? Maybe like development or, I don't know.
I mean, there's still so much development going on in the brain at that point. And it's driven by so many external influences as well. Obviously, like biology and our frontal lobes developing, which is our impulse control, ability to regulate emotionally, language, response time, like impulsivity, like risky stuff, all of that, right? So truly in those moments when you're trying to be the parent and you're like, this is so upsetting, like trying to emotionally regulate and not be impulsive in that moment is next to impossible for somebody who is under the age of 25 because their frontal lobe is not fully developed yet. That is like a very key thing to understand and everything that I say about parents too is like not from a place of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing it. It's like, I get it. I'm also there.
Same.
I live there, you know?
Right.
So it's not like by any fault of your own. There's so many reasons that we get here, but truly understanding like that we are still in that development phase. And then also I think the other fact that I tend to nerd out on a lot just because of my patient population is when I talk about the luteal phase of the cycle, this is the days and weeks leading up to your period, right? And I know you know that, but I'm just explaining it for our friends who maybe don't know about all the things.
Right.
So if you're on ADHD medications or anything that impacts dopamine, when we're in the luteal phase of our cycle, estrogen is low. So there's this big drop after ovulation. Progesterone's high, but estrogen is low. Estrogen is required for our body to utilize and create and modulate dopamine. Dopamine is our reward pathway. It's like our, oh yeah, that felt good. I feel like pleasant about that. Right? So a lot of times you'll hear like, oh, she eats chocolate before her period. She's dopamine seeking. It's an attempt to boost dopamine because estrogen is low. So you can give yourself so much of the same thing in the luteal phase that will not feel good. And then the day before you ovulate, you do the same exact thing or maybe even a lower amount. It feels so much better because your estrogen is super high at that point. So estrogen and dopamine have a huge relationship that even if your child is medicated, in the luteal phase, their meds are less effective.
This is a good fact.
Yeah, it's a great fact.
Very helpful.
I have lots more facts about that. That's the topic of a large project I'm doing.
Well, we'll get you back on the schedule for as soon as possible because I feel like this is really, really, I mean, obviously not. I mean, it's fun for me. So I love it.
That's why I'm here.
But also,
that's why I said yes. I knew it would be fun.
Yeah. But also just like there's just so much for us all to learn. And it's hard. Like can we acknowledge just that it's so hard sometimes, right? Being neurodivergent. It's so hard being a parent when you are neurodivergent and then have neurodivergent kiddos. Yeah. Parenting is just hard.
Yeah. Just in general.
And like sometimes just life, right? Like,
I mean, the world currently
it's just like,
It's a lot.
there's a lot of craziness going on,
Mhm.
So, thank you,
Mhm.
right, for being the type of provider, right, that sees all of this and that does ask the questions and that does try to see kind of, the ins and outs and the whys a little bit more,
Yeah.
right? I know the amazing work that you do. I hear it throughout the community. There's a reason why, you have a wait list, right? So you're one of the, best of the best. So thank you, from
Yeah.
Mosaic Minds to Paper Flower Psychiatry. Like, we appreciate you and the other members
Yeah.
of your practice as well. So
Yeah. Well, and I think the way that we make this something that is more widespread is by doing stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
This is my whole reason for this, because
Yeah.
I want more providers to
Right.
do this. I don't want to be one of the only ones.
Right.
I don't want to have the wait list I have. It's stressful.
Right.
I want to say yes to everybody, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I want to have other people who I can count on to know these things in a way that truly impacts these people's lives. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, like, I just want people to have better lives,
Yeah.
that feel better, live in their noggin and their meat suit a little bit more comfortably.
Yeah. We're only here for pretty short
Just a good
amount
time.
of time.
Not a long time.
Let's just have some fun.
Yeah.
Let's just be who we are.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be such a waste, right?
Yeah.
To just continue to care so much what other people think and not show the world like who we all are.
Yeah.
Like, why not? And then you get to find your people.
And come home to yourself.
So, yeah.
Do the weird thing.
Yeah.
Let it out.
Right.
Be strange.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll get you on the calendar again. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Tabitha.
Yeah. Thanks.